Please, please don't do this to me. The accusations are false. I haven't done anything. I'm being framed. These were the words of defiant Kiska, who was being tried for the murder of his childhood friends. No one was ready to believe his pleas for innocence, and he was sentenced to be thrown away into the Kadyrov dungeon, a dungeon that was known as nothing less than hell, from which no one could escape alive. His pleas for innocence fell on deaf ears as they took him away, dragging him with his hands tied behind his back and tears streaming down his face. The story begins in a village called Kadyrov, where Kiska grew up. This village was special because it had a dungeon named Kadyrov Dungeon, which many adventurers tried to conquer every day, making it a busy place. Kiska worked as a farmer in Kadyrov. One morning, when he went to tend to his fields, he was shocked and saddened to see that they had been completely ruined. All his vegetables were squashed on the ground and couldn't be sold anymore. Kiska knew that Darga, the son of the village leader, was responsible. Darga had always been mean to Kiska, causing him trouble in many ways. In this country, people with silver hair were called alks, and they often got picked on by others because of it. Sadly, Kiska was also an alk, with his silver hair making him a target for bullies. In the past, there was a human who belonged to the alk group, but he betrayed his own kind by siding with demons. Because of his betrayal, all alks were now suffering the consequences. For Kiska, enduring daily beatings from Darga and the destruction of his fields by the village leader's son had become routine. Despite his suffering, he felt powerless to stop the bullying due to his own weaknesses. Kiska silently endured each blow, unable to retaliate against the injustice. His only solace came from Namia, a girl from the village who had been his friend since childhood. Namia was the one who always tended to his wounds after he was beaten by the other children. She was the only person in the village who genuinely cared for Kiska, and they shared a close bond. While patching up his wounds, Namia couldn't hide her sadness and frustration over the mistreatment Kiska endured from the villagers. She expressed her dismay at the cruel behavior of the people towards him, showing her genuine concern and support for her friend. Kiska expressed his belief that his silver hair repelled others, making him unlikable. However, Namia reassured him with a smile, expressing her admiration for his unique silver locks. Despite Kiska's perception of his silver hair as a source of misfortune, Namia accepted him wholeheartedly for who he was. After a moment of silence, Namia called Kiska's name and revealed shocking news. She was going to marry Darga. The announcement hit Kiska like a thunderbolt, leaving him speechless and stunned. With a trembling voice, he managed to convey his congratulations to Namia, though his heart was in turmoil. Namia sensed Kiska's distress and asked if he truly felt okay about her decision. It seemed she hoped he would object to the wedding, but Kiska resigned himself to the situation, unable to voice his true feelings. When Namia questioned if he planned to spend his entire life in the village, Kiska affirmed, indicating his acceptance of his fate. Namia expressed her concern, stating that Kiska shouldn't remain in the village where he faced constant bullying, fearing it would only break him further. However, Kiska countered, explaining that he had nowhere else to go. He lacked both knowledge about the world outside and the financial means to start anew elsewhere. Squeezing his hand tightly, Namia gazed into his eyes and proposed a daring plan. They should escape together from the village. She revealed that she had savings at her house, sufficient for them to live comfortably and settle in a new place. With determination in her voice, she insisted that they should flee. Puzzled by her sudden suggestion, Kiska asked if she was certain about their plan. Namia reassured him, admitting that she didn't want to marry someone like Darga, but her family was pressuring her. She longed to escape to a place far from their troubles. Under the orange glow of the setting sun, casting a golden hue over everything, Namia poured out her feelings for Kiska, uttering 3 magical words that hung in the air, sealing their fate. Thanks to the angels of love, Kiska found himself reciprocating Namia's feelings. How could he not love someone like her? She was not only beautiful on the outside, but also incredibly kind and even more beautiful on the inside. As night fell, Kiska packed his belongings into a small cloth bag, eagerly preparing to leave the village with Namia. The thought of spending his life with her filled him with joy and contentment. He envisioned leaving behind his dark days, where he would no longer be bullied by anyone once they escaped from the village. Filled with excitement, Kiska arrived outside Namia's house, only to be greeted by her screams. Panicked, he dropped his bag and rushed inside to find Darga and his two lackeys harassing Namia. Seeing Namia in distress, tears streaming down her face, Kiska felt a surge of horror and anger. With a shaky voice, he confronted Darga, demanding to know what he was doing. Darga smirked and taunted Kiska, claiming he could clearly see what was happening. Ignoring the warning, Kiska summoned all his courage and demanded Darga to step aside. When Darga refused to listen, Kiska didn't hesitate to deliver a powerful punch to his face. Enraged by Kiska's audacity, Darga retaliated by punching him in the stomach and then delivering a brutal kick to his face, causing excruciating pain to Kiska's frail body. As the three of them mercilessly beat Kiska, Namia pleaded with them to stop, her voice filled with desperation. Darga continuously demanded answers from Kiska, questioning why he was there when Namia was his fiancée. Getting no response, Darga resorted to a sinister plan, transforming into a daffodil mode to inflict even more brutal torture upon Kiska. Despite Kiska's cries of agony, the trio showed no mercy, continuing their relentless assault. Unable to bear witnessing Kiska's suffering any longer, Namia intervened, promising to reveal the truth if they would stop the torment. Kiska screamed at Namia, desperately urging her not to reveal anything, but his plea was cut short as a brutal kick to his face sent him spiraling towards unconsciousness. The sounds of his surroundings faded into a distant haze as he struggled to maintain consciousness, his vision blurring. With half-closed eyes, Kiska watched as Namia whispered something to Darga, her words lost in the chaos around him. However, the expression on Darga's face spoke volumes, confirming Kiska's worst fears. Namia had disclosed their plan to escape. In a fit of rage, Darga seized Namia by the neck, his grip tightening as he drained the life out of her fragile body. As Kiska's vision dimmed and his consciousness slipped away, the last image burned into his mind was of Namia, tears streaming down her face, yet smiling at him bravely amidst the turmoil. As Kiska opened his eyes, he was met with the grim reality that Namia was gone, her life extinguished, and he was now being accused of her murder. False accusations swirled around him, painting him as a villain who had infiltrated Namia's home while her parents were away and committed the heinous act. Despite his fervent protests before the jury, his pleas of innocence fell on deaf ears. The fabricated testimony of those three individuals, along with the influence of the village leader, rendered his defense futile. With no hope left, Kiska found himself sentenced to the depths of Katarov dungeon, where the sins of Darga had been unjustly pinned upon him. As they loosened the tight bindings on his wrists, bruises already forming from their cruel restraint, Kiska realized the grim fate that awaited him. The dungeon, known as a place from which no one had ever returned, was essentially a death sentence in itself. Facing this bleak destiny, Kiska was stripped of any last words, resigned to his fate as he was forcefully sent to the abyss of the dungeon, a punishment that seemed more like a cruel execution than any form of justice. As the guards shoved him into the teleportation circle, a bright light engulfed him, marking the beginning of the teleportation process. Kiska's mind was consumed with thoughts of Namia, his beloved friend and confidant, cruelly taken from him by Darga and the village head. The bitter taste of betrayal and injustice filled his heart, leaving nothing but pure hatred in its wake. With Namia gone, there was no one left in the village whom he didn't despise. When he opened his eyes in the next moment, Kiska found himself in a desolate, dungeon-like environment. Rising to his feet, he began to move forward, his mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. Suddenly, he sensed a presence approaching. To his shock, it was a formidable creature, a bugbear. Kiska had heard tales of bugbears from other adventurers, stories that warned once you encountered such a monster, returning home became an impossibility. As the bugbear locked eyes with him and charged forward, Kiska's survival instincts kicked in. With lightning reflexes, he managed to evade the creature's attack at the last possible moment, narrowly escaping its deadly grasp. In a moment of utter helplessness, Kiska cried out, desperately begging for anyone to aid him. Suddenly, a shadow materialized